This is So I Did a Thing Live, and I'm super excited about this guest. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a backstory, and I should have looked back through the DMs to figure it out, but I think she reached out to me in the comments of a post. She can clarify that when she gets here. Said, hey, I'd love to be a guest, because I think I had done something about wanting some guests for my lives or something like that. And so I DM'd her, and she was like, well, I can talk about this, and this. And it was, one of the topics was bathing a cat, and one of the topics was criminal justice reform. So y'all know that I am a felon, and that that's something near and dear to my heart. So I said, let's talk about that. And also let's talk about bathing the cat, because that's pretty not a normal subject. It'd be funny. So I'm going to bring Rachel out here. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. And I'm going to bring Nathan out here. And as you know, as most of y'all know,
hey guys.
Hey, ma'am. Nathan and I are starting a series on ending the stigma associated with felons and the struggles they face and criminal justice and all that kind of stuff. So Rachel and I had actually decided to do this before Nathan and I decided to do our thing. So since it was criminal justice, I figured Nathan could come on, and since we're going to do that together, and it'd be a good conversation. So I appreciate you guys for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. We've got some people showing up, man. Kenneth is here. Kenny. Martin is here. Who's that?
Do you wave to people, Chris? Is it like a parade?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can wave. I do.
Okay.
Martin is showing up as a LinkedIn user for some reason.
Yeah, Martin has always been.
Yeah, Martin Kabutha. I hope I said your name right, Martin. So Rachel, the question that has been on everybody's mind since Monday is, what is up with the bathing the cats, and why should we want to do it?
Oh my goodness. The reason I brought it up is because I feel like we need to bring more awareness to this topic. So I'm going to have to tell you all a little story. And for people that don't know me, I apologize. I'm a very fast talker. I talk with my hands. I'm Italian and get it from my mama. And I'll try to keep you with me, but if you have questions, feel free to ask. Basically what happened is I'm a crazy cat lady. I met my husband. I'm still a crazy cat lady. We have 2 kids. I'm still a crazy cat lady. So you see a theme here, right? So I've always had people say, well, I can't really deal with cats because I have allergies, this and that. And I'm like, oh, you just need to give your cat a bath, like maybe once a month. And everybody's like, you don't bathe a cat. Like, that's ridiculous. They can clean themselves, whatever. And so I'm like, no, I think you need to bathe the cat, because I've done a little research. There's like this dander. And so I got these cats, and I decided I'm going to start teaching them how to take a bath, like in the bathtub, like a human. And that's going to get them used to taking a bath. You see where this is going to go, right? Except I'm so immune to sarcasm. I don't speak that language. So I'm like, everyone should know how to bathe a cat, right? And my husband, who's like very calm, logical, he's like, I don't think people are interested in this. And I said, not only are they interested, we're going to make a YouTube video. You're going to film me bathing this cat. So I had this crazy kitten, and I have 2 Himalayan kittens. So they're like finicky, princess cat, right? So we're in a bathtub of our house. We just moved into. It's a hot mess. There's like crap everywhere. I know my husband, I'm going to bathe this cat. You're going to video me. He starts taking a video on his phone. And I've always given the cats a bath. And I'll tell you the secret to success for this after I finish this story. But I get the cat on my thing, cat's in the bath. I'm not in the bath, obviously. I'm like, see, this is what you do. You do this, you do this. And I take my eye off the cat for 1 second. And the cat decides that she's going to climb the side of the tub. And then I grab the cat. And she kind of does this like backwards flip thing where she lands in the bath on her front paws. But it's definitely something PETA would not approve of. I'm still like, this is fine. This is normal cat behavior. And my husband's like, no. So afterwards, I'm like, all right, let's put it on YouTube, because I really want to like raise awareness and help people adopt cats, because there's so many out there that they adopted, but people are just allergic. If they would just bathe them, it would be fine. My husband was like, no, honey, I love you, but I'm just going to tell you this. The comments you would get on this video about this cat bath, you can't put it out there. The key is you got to raise the water. You put the cat in the bath, you raise the water on their chin, and then you bathe them.
Okay.
That's what you got to do. It's very important. It's a real thing.
I worked for a vet in high school, and every once in a while we'd have a client that wanted their cat bathed, so I had to bathe the cat. And it was just a crap show. They were everywhere, running all over the place.
Yes, yes.
And then he saw this thing, and it was nothing more than a mesh laundry bag with a drawstring.
No.
Yeah, you put the cat in the mesh laundry bag.
No.
You don't tighten it very tight, just like a collar, but you do the drawstring around their neck, and they can't move, and you can still bathe them and stuff through this mesh laundry bag.
That seems like PETA would have a problem with that one.
Yeah. They might.
More than me and the cat backflip up the side of the tub, and I'm like, this is all normal.
Yeah. Danielle is joining us on Twitch. I was fixing to go over there and make sure it was working, but that's good to know. Kenny said, are you making this story up?
No, this is legit. And you know what's really sad is in my heart I was like, we're going to help all these cats. They're going to get home. People are going to learn it's a normal thing to bathe their cat. You know, just put it on your calendar once a month, and it's just like not taking off. And I'm still out here like, why don't people want to bathe their cats? And it's just you build trust with the cat. You hold it by the scruff of the neck. You put it in the bath. You raise, the water's raised up. It's just all these little tricks and tips.
So do you actually like give it a bath, like fill the bathtub with water?
Yeah, so the key is, I'll walk you through steps, okay? Step 1, cat does not know about the bath, okay? But you do in your mind. You don't mention the bath.
Part, right?
You don't mention the bath. You go fill the bathtub up to like approximately chest height of the cat. You put a bunch of towels on the ground. You get your cat shampoo and you're like, thing ready, right? You go get the cat. You bring the cat in, scruff with the neck. Cat's in the bath. Cat's like, what just happened? Water's up to my neck and somebody's hand is right here, right? So they're just kind of like shocked. Then you take the shampoo, you rub them down, get them all nice, then you rinse them down because all this water in this bath, right? And you're not really concerned about like kind of soapy fur. Get most of the soap out, take the cat out, wrap it. Now you got to do the cat taco now. Since you worked at a vet, you know about the cat taco. You roll that cat like a burrito. Now you see why my husband won't let me put this on YouTube. So the cat's sticking out of the picture of the towel. One end of the cat's one way, other end of the cat's the other way. This is all legit, you all. And I'm taking this dead serious when I was filming this. And my husband's like, no. And I'm like, cat taco now. Roll the cat up. See their tail. See their head. Now they're happy. And the cat's like.
And the cat is not happy. Not through any of this is the cat happy.
Was shocked.
That is something we used to do, though, on cats that were being a little rambunctious with us, trying to bite and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Is we'd wrap them up in a towel with just their head sticking out, so they couldn't get to you.
And now they sell a thunder jacket. You know, the thunder vest for dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the cat taco was the original thunder jacket. It was relieving the anxiety of the cat from the bath.
Danielle said that is totally YouTube material. I agree.
I'm saying, my husband was like, no, I think he knew my feelings would be hurt. You know, like, people don't think this is helpful. They think I'm torturing this animal. He was probably right.
That is awesome. So it is not on YouTube.
No, he wouldn't let me put it on there. In fact, he refused to send me the video because he knows me so well.
I was really fixing to go look for it and share my screen with everyone and show it to them.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that have been awesome?
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
I'm ready to go see if there's a different video of cat bathing on.
Yeah, I know it.
It's
going to be my homework is go look for cat bathing videos.
Right.
That is awesome. So tell us, talk to us a little bit about criminal justice reform. We were talking backstage, and you just said you had some ideas on it and just some things you wanted to discuss. So let's hear what you got.
Hey, Jenny's here.
Yeah, Jenny is here. Hi, Jenny. Jenny was actually the one that suggested I put my stuff on YouTube. That way everything would be more readily accessible than trying to go through the great abyss that is your posts or your activities on LinkedIn.
Right. That's a great idea.
It was. I don't know why I didn't think of it before.
Yeah, this was really good. I need to subscribe to you. Is this the time in the broadcast where you're like, okay, now go subscribe, like, and comment?
Yeah, you can. The comments are actually in this post somewhere. In the original post I did, the link to subscribe to mine and Nathan's YouTube is in there. So
okay.
Yeah.
Nathan has one too.
Yeah, Nathan has one too. It's in the comments. I don't know if you can get to it while you're watching, but after the show is over, it'll be like at the top 2 or 3 comments. It'll be there. And
I'm gonna ask you all a dumb question. Criminal justice reform is really important. We should definitely talk about that. But because Chris and Nathan, you guys seem like really smart, but also humble guys. Why is it important that people subscribe? So I'm I don't know a lot about, you know, those kinds of statistics. My husband has a YouTube channel related to a podcast, and it always seems really important that he has subscribers. Does that tell YouTube, hey, show my videos? Does that help you? What does that help do?
So it's just like from what little bit I know about it, and Jenny can probably weigh in here. So it's kind of like any algorithm. The more subscribers you have, the more viewers, the more views you get, the more the more YouTube will push it into the regular feed. And the more, and I haven't figured this part out yet, like as far as keywords and stuff, where if people are searching for something, it will pick up on yours faster the more views and subscribers you have.
Right.
Okay.
And also there's certain levels, from what I could tell, like certain levels to your account that once you get a certain number of subscribers, you can have like a VIP thing. You can start charging people for subscriptions, which I would never do, but you know, it's just, there's different options that you can do, like account upgrades when you reach certain levels of.
And then you can start getting monetized too.
Right.
Okay. I thought there was a like monetary aspect, but I don't know if you guys have ever talked about that before. I'm sorry to interrupt and ask that, but.
No, you're good. And this is what Jenny said. She said, yeah, it's a signal for YouTube.
Okay.
That person is interested in your content, just like here on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
you subscribe, it'll push, if you're subscribed, it'll push my videos into your feed and Nathan's videos.
Okay.
And then they understood who clicks and watches. They know who else to recommend your videos to. So it's just an algorithm game, just like here on LinkedIn or any social media platform.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yep.
You would think we would all know that. Go ahead.
Thanks for coming by, Loopy.
Lupe?
Lupe, yep.
Maybe. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to distract us.
No, you're good.
Where are we going next? Where's a meandering path here? Squirrel.
And while we're on it, before we get into serious conversation, while we're on it, I could seriously use like 3 more subscribers on Twitch. So if there's anybody watching,
I looked at my Twitch channel to see how many subscribers I have.
What does that do? Does that unlock something too, or?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
Same basic thing, but like my next little badge or whatever is at 10 subscribers, and right now I'm at 7. So.
Yeah, I'm at 7 too. So
everyone subscribe. Make some fireworks go off here.
Which, I mean, honestly isn't bad considering I've had Twitch for literally a week.
Yeah, that's all I've had too. And a lot of people, like, there's nothing really. The streams are a little bit smoother on Twitch from what I've heard. I hadn't really watched one on Twitch. I watched a few minutes of Nathan's last week, but there's a lot of people on LinkedIn that prefer to watch stuff on Twitch just because the streaming experience is better. And like Nathan said, it doesn't store your videos for any longer than 15 days. So it's not like a place for people to go look at past content. It's just a better experience for people watching it live.
And there's only like a 5 or 10 second delay on Twitch as opposed to LinkedIn. It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So much good information. I feel like next episode you are going to be telling people like, here's how you start your own LinkedIn. Here's how you start your own LinkedIn stuff. Step 1, put the cat in the bath. Oh no, wait, that's the wrong thing.
We can start there. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know, Kenny. I don't think we're making millions. If we were, the background would be a lot nicer office, I promise you.
If we were, I promise I would not be drinking sparkling water from Walmart.
Squirrel moment. Yeah, my wife has them all the time. Jenny, you are the bomb. Like, you are like,
hooray.
Yeah. Thank you. That is awesome. So,
who was it? Miranda completely started her Twitch account just to subscribe to our channel.
She did. Miranda did that. She was like, I did it just to subscribe. Yeah, so that was awesome.
Look at these shout-outs.
Yeah, she may never watch anything on there, but she did that just to support us. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Good deal.
Yeah. All right, Rachel.
Anyway, serious conversation now.
Yeah, serious conversation.
Serious. Okay, so not cat bathing, right? Although that's still serious to me. So now we're to criminal justice reform, right?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. This one's definitely more important than cat bathing, although I guess it depends on what cause people are cat bathing. The reason I just like this so much, and I think that's when Chris, maybe when you and I connected, is maybe on a post you made about this. because I feel like this is something that we should all know about. Cat baiting, something like if you want to be rescuing animals or you have cats or you have allergies you're maybe interested in, maybe it's helpful to you. But I feel like this is something that is not talked about and really should be. And so can I just tell you all a quick story and you guys can tell
Yeah.
me yes or no on this. So
No, go ahead.
I am a pretty, some of my friends have said you're kind of sheltered and kind of straight edge. And I'm like, yeah, I have not been to prison. I don't have any background like that. I have known a lot of people that have been, that still are, as we would say, away. And I've heard about their experiences. It's very hard, right? What really struck me is when I saw this in real life, and this is a story I'm going to tell you. And Chris, just stop me if you're like, hey, that's not appropriate for LinkedIn Live. I don't know what the rules are,
Let's
but
go.
basically, so I'm working mama too, right? So when I go to the grocery store, I'm like in go mode. I go to the grocery store like, we're gonna get this done. So one night, my husband's watching our two kids, and I'm like going to the grocery store. I walking up to the grocery store after I parked my car, and I hear this guy screaming and yelling. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I live in Kentucky. This is not unusual. Whatever. Then I realize this guy's in the back of a van, and he's screaming and yelling to people that are walking by. So, of course, as I pass, I see the back of his van open. It's like a Sprinter van. There's like two rows facing each other, right? And he's saying, hey, can you help us? We've been in this van for 24 hours. We don't have food and water. And he's screaming out, these people are hurt, random things like this. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. Why would you be kind of yelling at me? Like, I don't know if I can really help you, because I see there's two people that are like attending this van. They have like uniforms on. I don't think anything of it, right? Because again, I'm just trying to get to the store, get my groceries, trying to feed my family some fish sticks, okay? I can't cook. That's another thing y'all should talk about here. I would subscribe to easy work night meals. But I realized when I kind of get up towards the front of the store, there's like a crowd kind of gathering. People are listening and watching this. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Is anyone like helping them, or do they need help? There's store employees. There's like a manager. There's like random other, I guess, customers like me. And everybody's like, no. And I'm like, somebody needs to call 911 right now, because somebody seems like they need help and no one's calling 911. So call 911. I tell them, hey, like there's these people in this parking lot that seem like they need help and no one's helping them. They're screaming for help. Seems really unusual. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a person that calls 911 or like freaks out over stuff. I'm usually just like, okay, whatever. But there's just something about this that's really, really sounds desperate and disturbing, right? So the 911 operator is like, and you are, and what is this about, and why, and just kind of give me a hard time. And I was like, look, just send the police out here and have them kind of investigate this, because I'd rather have investigated than not investigated. I'm on the phone with 911 outside, and I'm asking the store people, are you all calling 911? Is anybody calling 911? Because I'm on the phone with them right now, and they're acting like it's not a big deal. And they're like, no. And I'm like, there's like maybe 50 people now gathered kind of watching this whole thing. As people are coming by, these people are yelling from the van for help. Two people seem like they're helping the van, I don't know, loading supplies, groceries in and out, whatever. No one seems to care about this. And I'm like, what is up? I'm so shaken up by this. I go into the store and I call my husband. I was like, hey, I'm going to be late. Sorry. Our kids are really young. They're probably driving you crazy. But this thing has went on. I don't really know what's going on. He's like, okay, that's fine, whatever. So I'm like, huh. So I called a friend I know that kind of like knows about, police things, that kind of thing. She's like, I think they're probably prisoners that are being transported. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, yeah, there's no rules for that. It is pretty awful. There's been a lot of things that happen during this time. They're not reported. Like, they don't have to monitor if somebody's a diabetic. They don't have to give them insulin. They could die from that. They don't have to give them water. It's almost like an Amazon situation where we're just throwing packages in the back of the truck and we hope they get there a certain time. And it's really heartbreaking because of all the stories I've heard about the people that I've known that have went into some type of criminal justice situation, whether they've been a victim of something that's happened or whether they've been just caught making a bad choice at the time. It's really sad because a lot of times the criminal justice system itself, even through the police and, the judicial branch where the judge is talking to them, maybe they're having to plead guilty to something they're not really guilty of just to get a lesser sentence. Then maybe they're going to prison and they're just treated like, we don't care if you have heat, we don't care if you have vaccines, we don't care if you're sick, we don't care about your needs at all. And it's really weird because it almost reminded me of when I was in the hospital having kids, because no one cares about you anymore. They care about your kid is born, and you're worried about an infant. They're not worried about the mom so much. And it almost is like, am I not a citizen anymore? And that was the closest I've ever felt to it. I can't imagine being in the criminal justice system and being passed around like, you're not a citizen, you don't matter, you don't have a voice, we don't care about you anymore. And it's a crazy, crazy stigma. And I literally to this day cannot believe that no one cared about prisoners being transported like that. And I'm the only person out of 50 people that's going to call 911. And the two things I thought about this were I don't maybe have the background or experience to even speak about that. People might say, Rachel, please mind your own business. You're not an expert on this, and you're right, I'm not. I'm just a random person that's just kind of doing my day to day. But I will say this: if I can, I talk about it. If I can tell my story about this, hey, I saw this thing happen, and I tried to take action, and I really want people to be aware that this goes on, so that someday this can reach maybe a legislator, maybe someone that can write a bill, maybe we can pass more things for prison reform or criminal justice reform in general. And I have two kids that I'm raising, and I want them to understand it doesn't really matter if you made a bad choice or not. Some people make bad choices and never get caught, and they're treated maybe differently than this. But we should all be treating people with love and respect, because if we would go home and just all love our neighbor, maybe we wouldn't have as many problems in the world, right?
Yeah.
And so the two things I felt like people could take away from this is, why should you care about criminal justice reform? Well, because it's probably really close to you and your family. You probably just don't know it. Or if you do know it, you want to change it, but how? I just was thinking, wouldn't it be so great if people could brainstorm how these people could be helped? When they're out of prison, do they have work experience lined up for them? Are there mentorship programs available for them? Are there educational assistants here? Or is it just, hey, check in with your parole officer. We hope you have transportation to get there. And if you don't get there, you're thrown back where you came from. So to me, it's like, it feels like there's a lot that we could do, especially with the LinkedIn platform. You know, Sherry Garcia's on here with Cornbread Hustle, and I follow her, and I love what she does. If we could all just maybe bring awareness to it, and then if there's people that could contribute with either, here's an educational resource or here's a work experience resource, wouldn't that be so much more powerful than what we're doing today, which feels like not a lot? Is that a half off or is that a stop?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the main reason we were wanting to start this series, was to bring some light to that, because, you know, like you said, those guys were in the van. So I want to just start off by saying, if you did something to go to prison, that's fine. You know, pay the price, whatever. But there has to be something different happen on the inside. Like, they make some stuff in Texas. They make, you know, trade schools available, college available. They don't make you go to any of it. You have to pay for some of it. And there are very limited resources for when you get out. And the way they do treat you while you're in there, you know, I didn't have air conditioner the whole time I was there, and it's hot in the summertime. We went through a drought in 2011 and had over 60 days of temps that were over 100 degrees, with like only getting down to like 90 at night. So it was just like this really crazy experience to go through. But when you get out, there is very limited resources to help you when you get out. Like, I'm very blessed, excuse me, very blessed and very fortunate that, you know, I have a friend that's part owner of this company that got me this job. But I know a lot of guys that are still working fast food, or, you know, as construction hands, not the construction owner, but the construction hands, making, you know, $10 an hour. And that's all they have to aspire to, because they think that's all that's there. And, you know, when you spend so many years in prison being treated as a number, and, you know, not getting adequate medical care, and, you know, living in not AC. I don't know how they have it in Colorado, Nathan. Did y'all have AC?
I mean, yes, kinda. Obviously it wasn't effective, but the thing in Colorado is you have such drastic swings in temperature, even from day to day sometimes, that, you know, for them it's either the AC's on or it's not. So the AC would be on from May until October, but, you know, it snows here in May.
Right.
So yeah. And again, it's like they have the AC will be on, like, basically in the unit, but that doesn't disperse into the cells or anything else. So it's like it's on, but
right. But is it? Yeah. And, you know, like, whenever they're transporting those guys, I had to go to the medical unit one time, which was 3 hours or so from where my unit was. And the way the routes work is they pick up so many at this unit, so many at this unit, so many at this unit, run us down to Galveston. We did what we had to do there, and then run us back. On the trip back, it was a long trip. It was like a 3-hour drive, and it took us 12 hours between all the stops we had to take. And you're crammed in there. It was the middle of summertime. You're crammed in there. You're sitting on a seat, literally barely, 2.5, 3 feet wide with two of you, and you're handcuffed with no air movement. So the only air movement was coming in the windows. But when we were stopped at the units, letting people off and on, that'd be an hour sometimes. And there was no air, you're stuck in these buses with no air conditioner, just straight miserable. I mean, it was terrible.
Right. And then you're shackled and black boxed and
it's just terrible.
And for hours.
For hours. And I understand security. Like, I get it. It's a thing. I used to be a cop too. And I worked as a jailer in a county jail. So I understand the security side of it too, but there's got to be a better way to, you shouldn't be in a bus for 12 hours with nothing to eat or drink. You know what I mean? I mean, we had a water cooler, but it was this big for 30 guys. I mean, how long do you think that's going to last in July in Texas?
Right.
And I think it's hard too, because some people feel really strongly like, well, I'm a victim of this really bad crime, and I feel like this perpetrator didn't, or allegedly accused or whatever you call it. And I apologize, I don't use the right word, so I don't want to disrespect anybody, but
no, you're good.
That they deserve this, or maybe they're not sorry, not remorseful, they're not making restitution, whatever. And so I don't think, I don't want to get caught up in the, well, do they deserve it or not, whatever. I think it's more about, if there are people that are in the situation where maybe they're in prison, then what is being done to help them while they're there, and what's being done once they get out, they have a choice for a better life. Because, to be honest with you, if there's a situation that I know of where if I'm making money selling drugs, I'm not going to want to come out and make McDonald's money. I'm going to want to come out and be like able to do something. And so I don't know if it's kind of like, I was thinking of like, what is my theme, right? And this is not my platform really. I don't have the experience. I just feel a lot of empathy here, which again is another E. But
that's a good thing though. That's where it starts with people. You know what I mean? That's where the change starts.
Well, that could be me. If I had made a different decision, I didn't do anything different or special than any of the people that I know that are in prison. I just chose differently because, maybe where I was born and my parents raised me a certain way, and maybe that helped me. I didn't choose to be born into this situation. And so I'm very grateful that I am, but I think it's more about the education and the experience. And I think I was going to add another E. I feel like there's a huge opportunity of the people that I've seen that have come out of prison to be entrepreneurs. Because I feel like they understand sometimes differently than other people. I don't want to go back to anything that was in my past. So I will put it all on the table, and I will go hard after this goal. And I feel like a lot of people are just super comfortable in their life. And so maybe they're like, I don't need to do that kind of thing. And I feel like if there was an entrepreneurship available, or like some kind of program related to that, maybe there is, not just am ignorant, don't know what it is, that would be an awesome opportunity too. Like, hey, why don't you go start your own business, because you have the mentality and the hustle to do this. Just the empowerment behind it. I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you want to share more about your experiences. I feel like there's comments. I don't know if you reply to those or not. But I'll stop. I'll take a breath, because I am definitely a talker. I could just keep going.
No, you're good. I'm
just get very fired up about it.
I'm loving it.
So my biggest concern and my biggest problem that I think needs to be addressed within the criminal justice system. So my felony conviction was 16 years ago. In 2005, I was convicted. And in the time that I was in prison, I earned my bachelor's degree. In the time that I've been on parole, I've earned my master's degree. And still, every time I go to apply for a job, this conviction from 16 years ago is the biggest obstacle to me getting hired.
Yes.
What about, here again, ignorant, dumb question. Is there
such thing?
I think that too, but I always preface it because you just never know who's in the room, whether they're smart or not. Now we know that Chris is really, really smart. But, is there some things that just can't be expunged, or what's the process for that? Do people know about that? Is that like public knowledge? Like, hey, you can get this removed, you can't get this removed, that kind of thing. It's another E, by the way.
As far as I know, as long as I'm in the state of Colorado, it's never going to go away. And I'm also still on paper, so I mean, I can't do anything about that anyway.
Yeah, it's costly to get stuff expunged. You have to go to court, you have to hire a lawyer, you have to do all this stuff, which is a big deterrent. Or you have to know somebody. You have to be connected or something like that.
Right.
And I am 100% with Nathan on that. I got fired from my first job out because I had a felony conviction. I got hired, and then I applied. It was at O'Reilly Auto Parts, which it was really cool. I got fired. I mean, I'm good with it because I'm not really a car guy, but it was a job. You know what I mean? And I needed one. Making $10 an hour. But I applied to be a key holder so I could lock up at night. And somebody higher up in HR saw my record and said, he should have never been hired in the first place. Fire him immediately. So I showed up for work and got fired, which it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I got this job and it worked out. But if it hadn't, I'd still be at O'Reilly's making $10 or $12 an hour. It's just something that is held over your head for forever. And I had a conversation with Michelle Horonica, the pickle lady, and she was saying, and she was really honest about it. She said, I'm intimidated when I know somebody has been to prison, and I don't know why I should, because I'm not intimidated talking to you. She said, but at the same time, how many of these CEOs and people that are in higher positions have committed felonies that we may or may not know about and nothing happens? And I said, that's exactly right. There was one of the guards in the prison system where I was at one of the units I was at. He used to say all the time the CDC guards were nothing but unconvicted felons. So the only difference is I got caught. You know what I mean? There's so many people I know of, cops I know, that have committed felonies.
Right.
They just didn't get caught. So what is the difference? You just got caught. That's the only difference. Like, you're the same person, and there's people that need to be in prison. And I'm going to say this 100 times throughout this series. There's people that need to be in prison. I am not saying nobody needs to be in prison. But for the people that are coming out and want to change their lives, why in the actual hell should it matter that they got caught for something, for a bad choice they did? And why should it still be hanging over their head 16 years later, on parole or not? You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't affect you. Everybody has shit in their past. You know what I mean?
It almost feels like, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Nathan.
I was going to say, and that's like my whole thing with how difficult it is, because again, I'm going through a job search now. I mean, back in December, I was offered by 2 different companies. I was offered jobs, and 2 times in the same month, they said, okay, we want to hire you. You're the best guy for the job. Run the background check. Oh, never mind. We can't. So what is it that says that I made a mistake 16 years ago and that still needs to be held against me now? Like, did you not make mistakes when you were a teenager?
Right.
I mean, is that a rhetorical question? Because I don't know if the audience is wanting to be convicted right now when they write in with their comments about that. Everybody's made those.
Right. And the difference is mine is on paper. I made a mistake when I was 16 years old. Did people get hurt? Yes. Was I guilty? Yes. Should I have been punished for it? Absolutely. And now 16 years later, that is the biggest obstacle to me having a successful life.
It's so hard because there's 2 sides to this, right? So like right now, I'm not going to be devil's advocate, but I am. It's so hard because you want to offer people, I think Jenny just said, I totally agree with that, some kind of hope or some kind of, here's a purpose for your life, or here's a path for you that's not this other path.
Yeah.
And there should be a way for that, but at the same time, there are victims that are like, hey, I don't want to ever see that person again.
Yeah.
There's certain crimes against children where people are just really like never going to get over that. That's going to scar that person for life. And we totally, it almost feels like in the criminal justice system, in general reform, there should be way more, I wouldn't say gray areas, almost feels like it's either this or this. That's it. it almost feels like, can we not take into account what this person did while they were incarcerated, what they did while they're out? I don't know if it's possible when you apply to stuff, can you write a letter? Is that acceptable? A lot of times I went to community college. There's a really, really nice, really smart gentleman there that went to school with me. He had just got out for being in prison, and he had just made a bad choice not that far in the past, pretty recently. So he was like, I'm out trying to get education and get my life together. And he was still going through some rough patches, but he was really, trying to get his life together. And I almost felt like if somebody would sat down with him and said, here's a template that you can use. I use this when I applied for jobs. This really helped me walk through and explain to people about my past and what I'm doing currently to work on it. Like, hey, I did, this thing, and now I'm in college because I want to become a graphic designer, and I feel like I can run my own creative agency. This is why. Here's my portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if somebody sat down and said, here's your empowerment to do that, but it was like totally ignored and glossed over.
Yeah.
And so to this day, I have lost track of him, unfortunately, but he was a very smart, talented person. And you're just like, what if that person is the person that like has the cure for cancer, but we're ignoring this, we're not giving them a path, right? I know that's a little dramatic. But it just feels like there has to be a way to like, honor the situation. If there's a victim, or there's, maybe that's still going on. Some crimes are not really ever closed, right? They're just kind of like living on. Some are, right? But there has to be a way for somebody to change. If there's no way to change and move forward, then it's like, what's the point? I mean, that's how I feel if I was you, but I'm not trying to speak for anybody.
No, you're good. And Jen makes a good point here.
Oh, good. Let's read it. I really like it, Jenny.
Does punishing alleviate the victim's pain? Honestly, this was one of the things that kept me from becoming a criminal defense lawyer. The premise is locking offenders away will, but it doesn't move the needle. Retribution is not healing. We need restoration for both. That's exactly right. And and this can get into a sticky thing here. If people don't listen to the tone behind this, so I am 100%. There are a lot of victims that are still hurting. I get that, 100%. I feel that 100%. But keeping the person who did that to them locked up for forever or never succeeding in society will never heal that person's pain.
Quote of the day. Put it somewhere.
All it does is feed prohibits them from healing because they're so caught up, or maybe not caught up, but so focused on that person never getting out, and they have to pay for what they did to me. I agree, they do have to pay. But what is wrong with both sides being healed and restored? Right. That doesn't necessarily mean you ever have to see that person again. It doesn't mean they didn't do their time. It doesn't mean anything like that. But it can become an almost vengeance kind of mentality. You know what I mean? That could keep that person from healing if they don't let go of it. And, I'm not a psychiatrist or anything, but any kind of counselor or anything will tell you got to bring it up and deal with it to be able to heal with it.
Be able to heal.
Yeah, because basically what that mindset is you did a bad thing one time, therefore you are no longer entitled to happiness or success ever.
Right.
And I mean,
you're not wrong.
That's kind of skewing things into the extreme, but at the same time, I mean, that's what the job market is telling me.
Yeah.
It really is. If I apply for a job, oh, well, you had a felony conviction 16 years ago, so you're not entitled to work here. You're not entitled to have a good job. You're not entitled to happiness. You're not entitled to success. You're not entitled to have, a decent standard of living.
Right.
That's what I'm being told by the job market.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't want anyone to think, and I know Nathan doesn't either, that, we're crying in our post-toasties about what happened to us or anything like
crying
that.
In your what? Did you voice that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an old Texas saying, crying in our cereal or just crying a river. But, it's something that needs to be addressed. You know what I mean? It's something that needs to change.
Right. I can't wait for whenever Jenny comes on. This restorative justice sounds really awesome. I can't wait to listen to that.
Yeah, she is on our list of people to talk to on this. So we can, in fact,
this is a good point.
Let me, I'm going to look a little bit weird. Let me put that while I'm thinking about it. Let me put that on my list of topics for her.
This is such a good point, what you're saying here. I'm just going to wait on it, Chris. I'm just going to read this kind of basically saying the premise locking away the offender keeps them from hurting other people, but eventually they're out. Jenny has an experience, it sounds like where you've been assaulted. You'd rather have the person heal than be able to hurt anyone else. And I do feel like that there's a word for it, and I can't think of it, where, like, if I'm convicted of something I did that offends society, then I get out and I reoffend, and then I'm back in again, and I just continue this, like, vicious cycle. There's a word for it. I don't know. See how ignorant I am?
Recidivism.
Thank you. Why can't we reduce that rate, so that people that want to change can change? And I feel like there's some people that don't want to change, and that's okay. You don't have to make that choice. Because I've heard us argue to me like, so basically, Rachel, you're thinking that everyone's so good, right? That everybody wants a change and they want a chance, and also, well, if they don't, well, then there's laws, you go back. Just like if I'm speeding, I get a speeding ticket. Okay, I pay the speeding ticket. If I speed again, I get another speeding ticket. And I do think there's people that, there should be a sliding scale within the criminal justice system, so that people who are doing something that's like, wow, you really need a timeout, like a long timeout, because this really could hurt other people. If you're not in this long timeout, you can tell I have young kids, that's like in terms of timeout. But that's the point of a timeout with kids, though, seriously, is for them to have a chance to stop, realize what they're doing, and try to correct themselves. So, like, say I did something that's against the law, I go to prison, it's like a chance for me to stop, think about it, correct myself. But how can I if I was never given those tools in the first place, It's like you almost need something while you're in there and then something while you're out. And I think another point to this, too, is this is going to prevent, I feel like in the future, so I'd love to hear what Jenny says, too, what you, Chris, and Nathan think. I think this would prevent crimes, because I feel like if somebody feels like I don't have a choice, okay, so I got out of prison, but I still have a family to support, I still have bills to pay, so I have to go back to this old life, I don't have a choice, I'm trapped. You don't get somebody to feel like that, then they're having more crimes. Like, why don't we try to, like, really rehabilitate instead of just kind of put through a system? And I feel like there's a lot of money involved in this. So maybe that's part of it, right? And maybe legislators need to be more aware that, oh, this is a private business that's making money, so it's a whole other thing. But I just feel like there's got to be a way to change it. And even though I'm completely ignorant, probably sitting here in some kind of cloud of privilege or entitlement, I don't know, accuse me of whatever, anybody, it's probably true. Although this is from a thrift store and my pants are from ThredUp, so I really don't have that kind of money. But I feel like awareness, talking about it, is the first step for all of this. And then if somebody has an opportunity to give an educational experience or a work experience to somebody and give them a chance, I think something like this is going to be like, oh yeah, I should give that person a chance. Maybe hearing it would change their mind. Not to go on and on, but you guys have more
and that's,
credentials on this than I do, obviously.
And I can understand that whoever that first company is, somebody just came out of prison, it's going to be difficult for that first company to give someone a chance. I get that. Totally get it. Someone needs to step up to the plate and do it. But my bigger issue is, like, I was paroled 5 years ago. I've worked for 5 different companies in that span of time. I have had success and advancement and everything else with every single one of those companies. Positive work reviews, everything else. And that's still my biggest obstacle at finding a job. None of that matters. None of it matters.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I apply to the next job, they don't care.
Yeah.
Whatever I've done in the workplace in the last 5 years means nothing because of what happened 16 years ago.
Yep.
And
that's the mindset more than anything else that needs to change.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's almost interesting if you could ask, like, a really experienced recruiter, is it just another screening mechanism? Because there's a lot of things that recruiters do that are just about screening down, paring down, right? Is it just another elimination mechanism almost?
Right.
Where, like, okay, I need 10 years of experience, you only have 6, but you're screened out. Is it just that, or is there really more to it? Like, is there really, like, well, we've had this experience, statistics show that you will do something, Just a question, I don't know. Your experience and feelings are totally valid, not trying to discredit that.
No, I totally understand, and I think you're right. It's just, unfortunately, and I know that a lot of people in the workplace or in the job search market are experiencing the same things, even without felony backgrounds. Just the fact that recruiters spend more time trying to disqualify candidates than they are to qualify them. So
someone just said that too. Chris, I don't know how to do these comments. I just see them randomly and I'm like speed reading. I don't know how you do this.
So if you look over on your right, they should all be over there.
mm-hmm.
Oh, it would help if I clicked the word comment.
Now you can't put them on the screen. Only I can do that. But
Okay.
yeah, it's risk mitigation. That's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that is so amazing about what Sherry Garcia is doing at Cornbread Hustle. Is she goes in. I tried to get her on this year. She says she's not doing any more podcasts this year. So I'm going to hit her up next year. But
we should tag her in this post, though. I'm going to recap this on LinkedIn for the post. I'm tag her and be like, Sherry Garcia, I would love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, right. She goes into these major corporations and negotiates deals with them to hire, for second chance hiring. And they give these guys a chance where they're coming out making, $15 an hour versus $8 or $10 an hour minimum wage.
Mm-hmm.
And, she provides recovery support for them. And she's a former addict, so she, understands all that. She's been in jail. But the fact that she can go into these big corporations and negotiate a contract and say, look, I've got guys and I know they're going to do good. Give these guys a chance, and that these corporations are giving them a chance in Dallas, and she's just moved into Arkansas. To me, that is a spearhead of a movement right there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
right.
Jessica Hill works for Express Employment Professionals, and they're a temp agency, so they provide jobs for felons, and we're going to get her on here too and talk about it. But what I think Sherry is doing is it's all felons, and it's more than a temp agency. It's a staffing agency that is really going to get these guys longer term jobs. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think in the comments it's saying it's really complex, and I think that hits on what we're trying to say. Just disclaimer, I am not trying to make anybody feel like their experience is not valid. Their feelings are not valid. And I don't want to be disrespectful to anyone that's been the victim of a crime, because it can be life altering, right?
Right.
But it can
Absolutely.
also be the prison experience, and then coming out of that without anything for your future can also be life altering. So it would be great if we could have something for both sides, for sure. Mm-hmm. Not trying to downplay that. People that are innocent and have crimes against them is very tragic, extremely tragic, and have a lot of empathy for that
agree.
Too. Okay, just we all said it, so good.
Just to talk about victim empathy here.
Thank you for all. You guys know all the right words. I don't know. Yeah, I'm learning from you all.
Look, I wouldn't know the right words if it wasn't for some of the classes I took in prison. Like they teach you this stuff.
Right.
So,
and you know what? I want to stop you right there real quick, though. You guys have had unique experiences, because I know for a fact of prisons that have no education, no classes, nothing, no exercise.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck? That's the thing I'm talking about there. I'm not talking about, I didn't get, people think, well, you're in prison and you didn't get to see your cable TV show. It's not that. It's like, how are we helping to make this not happen again?
And I have been very, very fortunate in that my family has been very supportive.
Yeah,
my family has the means of taking care of certain things. So when I say I earned my bachelor's degree in prison, it wasn't something that the prison offered. I paid for it. I arranged it.
Good clarification.
That was entirely out of my pocket, that I had to go out of my way to do, and I actually had to fight with the prison system to be able to do it. So it's not something that's just like made available for people.
Yep, I agree. And
sorry, Chris, go.
you're good. You're good. I want to touch on that. Then I'm going to go back to one of the comments Lyndon made. The unit I was at, because I was a cop, I was on a protective custody type unit. The whole unit was nothing but geriatric, handicap, former cops, former judges, stuff like that. It was a real low key unit because they didn't want, they didn't want us all getting killed, basically, the former cops that were in there. They took college out of that unit because there wasn't enough young people that they deemed worthy enough, or the population wasn't young enough for people to take college, even though we had to pay for it ourselves. Because probably 80% of the people there were over 45 or 50, probably 80% of them were over 60. So they took college out. So I didn't even, like, I took some college out of high school, but I didn't get even my associates. I was on track. I would have gotten my associates while I was in there if they'd have kept college, but I was having to pay for it all. They paid for one class through a grant, and then I had to pay for everything else. And I'm still paying on it. That's part of my parole fees. I got to pay on it when I get out. But they took it out of there because they deemed it not necessary for that unit because everybody was old.
I don't
That's the kind of mentality.
I don't understand why would you not be able to have a student loan? It's like you're not going to have a job to pay it back.
Yeah,
I mean, this is not a dumb question, but I don't know.
Yeah, they don't know what your job situation is going to be when you get out.
Mm-hmm. Or, in a lot of cases, when you're going to get out. So what happens? Okay, I take a student loan, I do enough to earn my degree, but I've got 5 years left on my sentence and my loans come due.
Right. It almost feels like, I think there's like legislative, so like the government sector, there's some changes there, right? Like basic human needs, grants for education, more like assistance, because I imagine, and I guess you guys could probably definitely speak to this better than I am, but does your parole officer help you? Like, or are they just like, get a job, find transportation, find somewhere to live? What if you don't have a family? What if you don't have somewhere to live or a car?
Yeah,
Don't you just walk out of prison with nothing? Like, it upsets me because it's like, what are you supposed to do?
That is such a good point because, again, I've been super fortunate. I have a very supportive family. We come from means, so, I'm not going to go without. I have somewhere to live. I got out and I had a car, so
wow.
There's a lot of people who get out of prison and have nothing. And I know how difficult it has been for me with everything that I do have. I can't even imagine what it's like for all of these guys who come out with nothing. They don't have family. They don't have money. They don't have transportation. They don't have anything. And I don't know how they do it. And that is a huge reason why people end up going back, is because they have nothing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I want to, before I forget, before we get too far down that rabbit hole, I wanted to bring this up. And kudos for Lyndon for being so open and vulnerable about this. She said, it's hard because being the victim of a sexual attack, it's hard for me to not want them to be in jail. I'm not saying that they should or shouldn't. I just think this topic becomes complex to me, and my mind changes day to day how I feel about that. She said, for the first person, they did change and they changed for the better. The second person hasn't learned anything and sometimes makes me think what he did to me didn't impact him. So this is the kind of stuff.
Yes.
The real, you know what I mean? Like, she's so conflicted. It's totally understandable. The first person did good and she's maybe not okay with it, but she's maybe come to grips with it and has learned to let that go or heal from. You know what I'm saying? And Lyndon, you can jump in here if I'm butchering your mindset. Feel free to. But the second person obviously hasn't. And so she's conflicted on it, because just from reading that, my take on it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is she wants them to be apologetic, remorseful and to do good, but they haven't learned anything. So now she's like, well, what the hell?
What a cool name, Lyndon, by the way. I really like her name.
Lyndon is amazing. If you're not connected to Lyndon, you need
to connect to her.
She is absolutely amazing. Yeah, and Jenny. Jenny's amazing.
I need to be like you, Chris. You know everybody on here. I need to get to know more people. That's so heartbreaking. And that's exactly, I think, the crux of what we're trying to talk about, is that doesn't your heart just break for Lyndon? No one should have to go through that experience. It's such a tragic thing that should just never have happened. And at the same time, though, if somebody wants to change and there's no thing available for them, it's almost like the crime happens again. It's almost like the wrong just doubles, where something's wrong has happened to her, something's wrong to happen to another thing. I think that's hard too, because there's so many examples that I know of, and I'm really trying hard not to get detailed examples, but because I want to respect people's privacy.
You're good. Also, I mean, as long as you don't mention names, if you want to, that's fine. But it's totally up to you. That's your call.
Like, I feel like, I don't know. I guess the way that to explain it best is, when things happen like that, there's so much going into it from either side, right? Whether you're a
Mhm.
victim or whether the person is convicted of doing this crime, right? Whether you did or not, whatever. I don't know the right words again. So just forgive me, bear with me. But I feel like there's almost a little bit more, in some cases, victim support, because there's like, maybe there's therapy, private or public, or your workplace offers somebody you could talk to, or maybe they let you have a leave. But then there's also victim shaming. There's also stigma
Yeah.
around that. It's awful. I mean, I knew a friend that in college had a really awful thing happen to her. I'm sure you can kind of draw the lines here. And she never told anybody, because as a woman, when you say those things, it's almost like it's your fault. And you're just like, what is up with this? And there's so many stigmas around all this. When you look at it on paper, you're like, there should be no stigma around this.
Right.
Like, to Nathan's point, if you made a bad choice 16 years ago, we shouldn't be having stigma on you today, because especially when you can show, okay, I've changed, it's different. There shouldn't be a stigma on victims either. And, Chris or Nathan, you might know the right word for that, but it's just the only thing I could think to do to help. Obviously, I feel like I'm totally helpless with this, but I feel like if I can just talk about it and people can say, oh, you're a normal person, but you think you have the right to talk about this. Yes, because I'm going to raise my 2 kids to know about this, have no stigma around it, and just love and accept people where they are, and don't have judgment on it. I mean, it just makes me want to cry. I want to cry for Lyndon, but I want to cry for the situation, like what Nathan said, and all these people that I've known too. It's just not right.
No, it's not. And like Lyndon said, she was blamed for both times, which makes it really tough to have to go to court, to have to recover, to have to heal, to all that stuff.
And
that
I
was,
think
that wasn't you, Lyndon. That was to the court BS. What's up with that?
Right.
I can't speak to this. I can't speak to this personally, but I have heard that the criminal justice system will basically, I mean, first of all, to Lyndon's point, very difficult going through the whole court process and everything else. But as soon as the conviction is reached, the system basically says, okay, we're done with you.
Yeah.
And they're basically left to fend for themselves at that point. There's no additional, route for healing or,
the victim?
Trauma. Right, the victim.
Okay.
For healing, for trauma therapy, for any kind of support. Once they get the conviction, okay, we're done with you. Bye. And that's something that, if nothing else, that's just awful.
Yeah.
I mean,
they and I know this just from being in prison with sex offenders. They have, mandatory classes they have to go to before they get out. And in Texas, there's a 4-month, a 9-month, and an 18-month. And the parole board decides which one you have to go to based on the severity of your offense or something like that. The state pays for that. I don't know of any state paid for counseling for victims. There might be resources out there I don't know about. So, if somebody knows about it, y'all don't blast me or whatever. But, the offenders are required to take it. But like Nathan said, once they get the conviction, they're done with you, because they got the
Love you too, Lyndon.
Yeah. She sent you a connection request, by the way.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Yay! Thank you for being in our conversation. Not to interrupt you, Chris. Again.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Chris is like, you're never being on here again, Rachel. You talk
too
much, you interrupt me.
I love it when you do that. I hit the wrong button over here.
It's just, if anybody else can offer too, like their suggestions on things we can do, what's hard for me, and I don't want to make the excuse like, well, I don't have time and I don't know. So what I'm trying to do is educate myself, follow Sherry Garcia. There's a guy that's doing it for Salesforce. I work on the Salesforce platform, which is really, really good for a lot of people who are like, I don't have an education, I don't have a certification, but you can learn very quickly. It's a very niche Salesforce thing. It's really like, I really just like Salesforce. It's a really cool world to be in. But something like that, does everybody even know that exists and that would be available to them? That right there, like, I don't know. There's a guy that does it for Salesforce, though. I should send you his LinkedIn.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as like, you were asking earlier about like when you get out, what does your parole officer do to help you or whatever?
Oh yeah, go back to that.
There are a few resources available. Most of them are, on the bulletin board in the waiting room. And your parole officer may know about places that hire felons. Like there's a chick in Well, there's two of them. John Souls Foods, which makes pre-manufactured or pre-packaged like beef fajitas and chicken fajitas and chicken patties and stuff. And then Sanderson Farms, which is like Pilgrim's Pride. They're a big chicken farm. They both hire felons. And I know a guy that works for John Souls Food as a maintenance man, making like 18 or 20 bucks an hour. So he's doing pretty decent. But and Sanderson Farms, and I'll give a shout out to them. If you can get a ride to a central place in Palestine, which is 30 minutes from here or something, they'll come pick you up and take you to work every day, and then bring you back to the meeting place at the end of your shift. So there are places out there now. Working for a chicken farm might be just straight crap work, but you might have an opportunity to move up. But other than those two places. My parole officer didn't tell me any place to go to work. He just said, you need to get a job. Right. And they don't care, like for your monthly parole meetings, I have to go in once a month and report. They don't really care too much if you have a ride or not. You just better get your ass up there somehow or another. Mm-hmm. They might be a little flexible if you call them and tell them, man, I can't make it, I don't have a ride, but they're not going to be flexible for very long. You know what I mean? So there's not really any good resources.
The biggest thing that I've seen with the resources offered by parole here is they focus on helping the most amount of people that they can. So
their caseload is overloaded. You know what I mean? Like they've got
so people who are coming out of prison who need a low skill construction job or a restaurant job or something like that. Yeah, your parole officer can probably give you the name of somebody to find you a job doing general labor or washing dishes. Mm-hmm. I have a master's degree. I'm not going to go do roofing for $15 an hour.
Right.
I mean, I would if I needed money for bills, though.
Yeah, I mean...
I'm just saying that because
circumstances are going to call for whatever, but I mean, I'm not at that position. The point is that the parole office is not going to have any resources to help somebody like me. They're not.
I think there's multiple things, not a gray area, kind of like a gray area again, because like if you're okay, I'm out of prison, I have no job, I have no car, I have no place to live, then yeah, I'm going to be wanting doing anything, Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
You're just like, I don't have an option to be having any pride at this point. And I mean, there's been times in my life, not even prison related, I don't have money. I don't have any pride to be doing it right now. I just need to pay my bills. My mom always said to me, Rachel, you need to have a roof over your head. You need to have a car. You need to have a job. Those are 3 things that you need to be worried about. You don't need to be worried about clothes or this girl drama or who knows what, Mm-hmm. And so I'm always focused on my job, am I working as hard as I can, obviously work-life balance and all that, but, because it's so central to so many other things. So Nathan, you're almost on like path number 2, option 2. So you come out of prison, you're like, I need option 1, I just need a job to pay my bills because like I need to live, but you're on option number 2. But what if I want to go beyond? What if I want to become like an overachiever, basically? Then there's nothing for me. Like that seems like really disheartening and can make you really bitter, I think too, just to throw this in there, I love to get your all's opinions since you're both men. I'm assuming your pronouns, by the way. But nobody come for me. I'm not politically correct at all. Can you tell?
You're good.
But I feel like a difference too is the majority of people that are incarcerated, I feel like in this country, are men. And I'm not getting into any more stats about it because that can get political, whatever. The reason I say that is because I feel like just watching my husband and other different men, and I had to read a lot because I have 2 sons, and I'm like, I need to be able to relate to them. Men, I feel like a job is so central to who you are as a person, to what you do, to how you feel. It's almost like when I have a good day at work, I'm in a good mood. I'm feeling good. I feel productive. I feel accomplished. It really elevates and contributes to my mood. So I can't even imagine how much more so that would be as a man. And then in our society now where men don't have the same community sometimes that women do, and I see that they don't have the opportunity to reach out and say, I'm having this struggle in my life. What can I do? They're just expected, it feels like sometimes, to just be stoic. Don't cry. Just make it work. You can't be weak. And so to come out of prison and be like, you're missing a central core to you as a man, a job, And then also as a man, you can't talk to anybody about this because they're going to perceive you as weak.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like such a double whammy. Like you can't even admit and be vulnerable. Like this is a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if that resonates with you all. You can be like, you've been reading too many crazy books, Rachel. It's fine if you say that.
No,
I do
I
read a
agree.
lot of books.
Like, when I got out, I lived with my granddad for from May of 2016 until I got married in September of 2017. And I was blessed enough. One of the guys I did time with met me whenever I got out and gave me a car. It was an old beater, but it got me to and from work before I got fired, and then after I got hired here. But you're right. Like to me, and I was very dependent on him and my parents for a while. I got out in May. I got a job in September, got fired. So really like May to October, I was really dependent on them for a place to live, for groceries, for everything. And I didn't like it because I had been on my own for so long before prison.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand exactly what you're saying. It's kind of it is so central to who we are to have a job and to be supporting of our families or of just of ourselves. And it's so expected of us.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's no safe space to vent about it if it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining. But if it was me and I came out, I didn't come out of prison, but long story short, there was a point in my life where I had nothing. Nowhere to live, no car, no money. And this is a series of choices, of course, we all make, is what it is. But I had a family that was super supportive. My brother gave me an old car, got me around. I mean, I was going and getting used tires for it at one point. I'm like, I can't afford new tires, and I definitely can't afford 4 of them. I can afford one, and how cheap can you make it?
Right.
I mean, it had no air conditioning. It was an old Toyota Celica, and it was just one of those things where I needed money to pay bills, and I just needed to get myself into a different place. But if it wasn't for the support of my family, I definitely wouldn't have made it. And as a woman, though, it was acceptable for me to be going through this. It was like, okay, these choices have happened. These things have happened to you. You are where you are. We'll help you. There was no stigma to it, and there was no, okay, you're crying and having meltdowns and freaking out. There's no, like, you can't do that. And anytime I wanted to talk about it, I could just, be going off about it. But I feel like, man, I never see them be able to do that. Maybe they don't need to. I don't know.
And Nathan had a great support system in his family while he was locked up and out.
Sounds like it.
And I did too. Still do. But there's so many that don't have that support system.
Mm-hmm.
I was locked up with a lot of guys. One in particular, right when I first got locked up, I was on a transfer unit, which was just a temporary unit. You only stay there for like less than 2 years. There's a guy, he was fixing to discharge his sentence. He wasn't even going to be out on parole. He was fixing to discharge. And he was homeless. He didn't have any family, didn't have anywhere to go. So he was hustling, doing folks' laundry in there. And he was hoarding soups and soap and deodorant and toothpaste and stuff like that so he could take it with him when he left because he didn't have anything. And all they do is give you a freaking bus voucher and a $50 check. And you get another $50 check the first time you report. So he wasn't going to get out on parole. So he'd get the whole $100. But he came out with $100 and a bus voucher and a TDC bag full of ramen soups and prison deodorant. And that's what he had to look forward to getting out.
Right.
And that happened. I knew a bunch of guys that were like that.
And those guys who discharge their sentence, they have even less resources available to them because parole doesn't give them support.
No,
if you're not on parole, you don't get support from the system anymore. You're just done. They wash their hands.
It's a good learning experience because I didn't know that. I thought everybody just went to parole. That's what you did.
No, if you discharge your sentence, he had a short sentence anyway. It was like 3 years or something. But our parole officers don't give us the best resources. But at least they can tell us, hey, Subway hires felons. So does Sanderson Farms. They'll pick you up. If you can get a ride to here, they'll pick you up and drop you back off or whatever. They have, and like Martin said, the overload issue. My parole officer probably has 50 or 60 people he's got to deal with.
Dang.
just one person. So he's got to see all of them once a month in the office. He's got to, some of those may be on quarterly or yearly reporting, but for the vast majority of his 60 people are going to be one office visit a month and one home visit a month. And then dealing with everything else he's got to deal with in between. So, I'm not going to say that parole officers don't try, but they don't have the time to try, if that makes sense.
Right. They don't have, they could want to help but not be able to help, like a social worker sometimes.
So, but this guy didn't even have the option for a parole officer to tell him, Subway will hire you if you go down there. You know what I mean? Like, this guy had absolutely nothing at all.
Do you know what happened to him, or can you say?
No, I sure don't. I mean, there's no way for me to even, I don't even think, I was real particular about who I gave my address out to,
I don't blame you.
Stay in touch with, especially that, I was new to the game, as they say. So my perception or whatever of people was not real honed, and I knew that. So I was real cautious going in about who I gave personal info to. But I didn't give it to him. I don't know what happened. But that's the case with a lot of people. Yeah, they do get overwhelmed and they get jaded. They get so overwhelmed. They're going to have a handful of their clients are going to be knuckleheads that are always messing up anyway because they don't want to act right.
Right.
They don't want so much time dealing with them that if you're even halfway thinking about doing good, you don't get any attention.
Right.
Which is understandable. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? There's nothing they can do about that because it's the resources they have. And, there are some good parole officers. My parole officer is not a bad guy. And I know he would probably help me if I need it, but at the same time, he doesn't really have time to do anything.
Yeah.
It's really hard too, because I think one of the things that, this is such a complex issue with like so many threads sticking out of it, right? It's just like a ball of yarn. It's just, but one of the things too, I feel like, is there's no time machine. And so everybody would want to go back and change this. Most people, maybe the knuckleheads, like you said, don't want to. They just want a knuckle sandwich and move on. But I feel like, I'm sure like Nathan and Chris, you guys are like, yeah, I would take a time machine a second to go back and undo this. And like when we heard from Lyndon earlier, like that should never happen to her. We all wish we could have a time machine that could just take that back. And people didn't make those choices, but it's just, there's no time machine. So it's almost like, what's the antidote to that then? There needs to be some action that can be taken instead, right? It's just hard because when I think about my situation, which is nowhere near, what you all went through or what Lyndon went through, or what people have had experience coming out of prison. When I had nothing but I had my family, I had no money, no car, no job. I knew, though, if I could get out there and I could work really hard, and at one point I worked 2 jobs, like, it was crazy. It was a really crazy time. But these jobs are like 24 hours. It was nuts. Whatever. I knew if I could keep doing that, I could get ahead. What's ahead, though, for somebody when they think it's this example of, I work really, really hard, but then the next job that I want to advance to, I can't advance to it because they're going to check my background. So it's like, what's the incentive to work hard and try to get ahead? So like if I'm your guy you're talking about, Chris, where you're saying, I'm coming out and I'm homeless. Okay, yeah, I go to McDonald's and I work really, really hard. I save all this money. Maybe I can get myself an apartment. I don't know. $10 really cost of living. I'm kind of doubting if you're getting an apartment at that point, or how nice it is, really.
Right.
But there's no way for you to really get ahead, because where are you going to go besides McDonald's? Are you going to be promoted there? Are you going to go start your own restaurant? Who's going to give you a loan for that? It's just, that would make me feel very hopeless. So earlier, I think Jamie was talking about the hope factor, and I think that really is a big part of it.
And I think that's part of, why the recidivism rate is so high is lack of resources in, but also lack of resources or care coming out. There are people that'll help. There's, organizations that'll help or whatever. But how do you get a hold of those people?
I don't even know.
When you're in prison, your resources are so limited. You can write reentry and ask for a list of resources, but the list is probably 2 years out of date. You know what I mean? Some places are probably not open anymore. There's new places that are, you know what I mean? It's just a lack of resources available to people getting out. It's just ridiculous. Like it's nuts.
So you all feel like you're basically extremely lucky and
very
rare to be in your situation you're in.
I make more than most guys that I know that are on parole. It's not great by any means. It's not, I'm not knocking back 6 figures a year, but I don't know many people 5 years out of prison that make what I make. I'm very, very fortunate to do that. You know,
Thanks to your friend.
yeah, I don't have to worry about my bills being paid. I drive a, half-ass decent truck. I live in a tiny house, so I don't have a mortgage or anything. But at the same time, I look at all these guys that are just slaving away for $10 an hour, trying to, have a wife and kids, or even $15 an hour. $15 an hour is not that much, really.
Right.
So in Colorado, minimum wage is $12.35, but the cost of living in Colorado Springs, $15 an hour, you won't even be able to pay your rent, much less any of your other bills.
No, what is that? 15 times 40 equals that's $600 a week, and then you take taxes out of that. You're looking at $450 probably.
Right. A one-bedroom apartment in Colorado Springs is about $1,200 a month.
Yeah, so you're bringing home $1,800 a month, and you're already $1,200 out on an apartment.
Right. And that's at $15 an hour.
Yeah, that's at $15 an hour.
And if you wanted to move, can you move when you're on parole or no?
Yeah, you have to get permission. You have to let your parole officer know, but you can.
But like, say I'm like, hey, I'm in Colorado. It's a really high cost of living. If I move to Texas, it's going to be a lower cost of living. They're going to let you do that?
That's a more complicated process. It's called an interstate compact.
Right. As long as you have family and means of finding a job, then yes, it takes time and it takes effort. It's possible, but you have to prove that you have family there, and you have to prove that you'll be able to find work.
Yeah, they don't just do it,
right,
for everybody. You have to, you can't say, hey, I'm going to move. Nathan couldn't say if he didn't know, aside from me, so like he didn't have any family or friends or anything here, he couldn't just say, hey man, I want to move to Texas because the cost of living is lower.
Right. Like I want to do a logical good thing, but I don't have any family, and that's not my fault.
Right. They're not going to do that.
That's hard, That's hard.
Yep.
It's kind of depressing to talk about this, right? Because you just kind of are like, phew, crazy.
It is, and it's something that needs to be talked about, and that's one of the things that Nathan couldn't have asked me at a better time, because I'd scheduled my lives out because I was not real focused on what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to highlight people in my network, and just have fun conversations with them and talk about what they do and stuff like that. But then I got to scheduling out. Every time I think of somebody, I DM them. But then I ended up being booked out like through the 1st of August. And I got to having ideas for lives. And I was like, man, I can't do this because I'm booked 2 months out. It's going to be 2 months before I can do anything. So I quit asking people. And about the time I started thinking like that, Nathan DM'd me and was like, man, we need to do something. Like, let's use our lives and talk about this kind of stuff. Maybe not every week, maybe just once or twice a month, so we can still have fun and do, the other stuff we want to do. But to me, it came at exactly the right time. And then, Jenny talking about put your stuff on YouTube, where all this stuff will be available for people that want to look at it. So I think, not like it's going to be some kind of big thing, but I think that it could grow into something that's needed. And there's a niche of people on YouTube that are into the prison reform stuff. So
we should all be into the prison reform stuff, because it makes you think that, like, what if one of my kids makes a mistake and is in prison? Then what? I pray to God that doesn't happen, but we all have free will. Things happen.
Right. Loopy, I don't know. I don't know of any criminal attorneys off the top of my head that we could ask. If one wanted to come on, I would consider it. I think we both would. Jenny, I almost called her Jenny Snark. Jennifer Brick was on the road to becoming a defense attorney, and she got it out of it or didn't do it because she didn't agree with it. But yeah, so if you know a criminal defense attorney that might want to come on, hook us up with him, or her, and we'll talk to him and see if it would be a good fit or not.
I think that's a really interesting point, because it's really hard, because they've probably seen both sides of it too.
Yeah, exactly.
They've probably seen just people get out of stuff that should have got convicted, and people get convicted shouldn't have, and I mean, I even give kudos to, Kim Kardashian for going back to school to be a lawyer to try to help with all this.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
I used to love the Kardashians. I used to watch them so much back in the day, and then finally one day I woke up and I was like, wait a second, is this real? I don't think so.
No, it's
And
not
so
real.
I just like that they were a family, that they were trying to be real women, and they were trying to be stick figure Barbies, whatever. Who knows how real they are though now? But the whole thing now that she's doing, where she got the grandma part in and stuff like that, it's like people don't even know that happens, just to bring awareness that like there's this grandma sitting there for doing this random thing. Why?
Yeah.
There's no one going back. It's almost like once you're thrown in there, it's like forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I feel like just the awareness alone. Even though I'm not an expert, I appreciate you having me and letting me talk about this. Not that I really have anything to add to the conversation, but I'm just happy to help bring awareness to it.
You added plenty, and that's kind of one of the cool things is, you can bring people on that are experts or have experience or whatever, and that's awesome. And we've got people lined up to do that. I think our first guest is going to be a woman who she's never been to prison, but her family has. So we're going to talk to her about, the effects that had on her. But having just somebody on that has absolutely no experience in it whatsoever, be so passionate about it and have such strong feelings about it, to me is amazing. Like, I have enjoyed this conversation immensely.
About me? Oh,
yeah, you. I'm talking about you.
I'm like,
you.
who is this nice person they're talking about? But the real thing we should be doing is thanking you all, because it takes a strong person to be vulnerable and say, this happened in my past. This is what's going on with me now. I mean, like, I have done some really stupid things. I didn't get caught, right?
Yeah.
You don't see me on YouTube saying, oh, yeah, so there was this time when I lived in Montreal, and I may or may not have tried to get in this club for free, and I may or may not have been carried out by bouncers, and it may have been a little crazy. Marijuana is legal there. No, I was not having any. But, I mean, it's like, that may or may not be true.
Yeah.
And so
is that one of those that may or may not have happened?
But they didn't call the police on me and get me arrested, right? They could have. They didn't, And one time I was speeding really fast, and the guy was like, you could be arrested for this. But I'm not, and it's hard, because it's like then people are going to get into the whole thing about privilege and where that plays into all that. And also, I love Johnny Cash. Whoever just joined us talking about that.
Yeah.
It's James.
Yes.
Yeah.
James Patrone.
When I watch and listen to Johnny Cash, you can just feel that his heart is almost. What people say is real or fake, I don't know. That's a whole debate thing, right? But a lot of people that take their music into the prison, like when Kanye did that, you just really feel, thank you for bringing awareness to this, and thank you for bringing something to this. Yeah. Because these are still people that deserve something too. It's heartbreaking. Yeah. I'm about to stay tuned to your series, Chris. You're going to have to give a shout out on LinkedIn when it's going to be a criminal justice flavored event, or cat bath. I'll take cat bath. If anybody else wants to talk about that, I'll tune in, listen to them, comment.
Yeah, we're going to take turns hosting it, and
so Nathan's going to do some too.
Nathan's going to do
okay.
Live. So we'll just take turns hosting it, and then it'll be available on both our YouTube channels. Like when Nathan hosts it, he's going to send me the video for me to put up on my YouTube.
Oh, okay.
That way it'll be in both places. For that,
right.
Whoever, two more, it'll be two places to find it or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, there'll be a post going up every time we do this. It'll have the topic or the guest or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
thank you all. Thanks both of you all for doing this.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Well, you're welcome. I don't know if I really had anything. Yep.
Well, guys, I have enjoyed this immensely.
Me as well.
Probably one of my favorite lives that I've done so far.
Was it the cat bath to put it over the edge? Or was it the cat bath? I've had a lot of fun too, and it's crazy. LinkedIn, you meet so many people, and you just connect with them. You start talking. It's like you don't know anything about them, but you're just like, man, I would like to have dinner with them sometime. So
yeah, exactly.
Y'all are ever in Kentucky, holler.
Right.
Shameless plug. I have a live going on in about half an hour here, so if you want to join me over there, I've got Liz Drews joining me. So
awesome.
All right, we might have to do that.
And I need to go eat dinner before I do that live, so I gotta go.
All right, man.
Keep that blood sugar up.
All right, guys, it's been fun.
All right,
thank you all.
All right, guys, I appreciate everyone for joining. I didn't know Rachel was going to duck off right at that second, but that's okay. I appreciate y'all very much. We're going to be doing these probably a couple times a month. If you know of anybody that's been affected by prison in any way, send me or send Nathan or I a DM and let us know. We'd love to chat with them and see, if they'd be a fit for the show. So yeah, I appreciate y'all, and y'all have an amazing evening.